Well, hi everybody, my name is Dr. JD Swanson. I'm the author of Karate Science, for those who don't know me. And welcome to, I think it's class number 12, 10, 11, 12. Wow, we're out of like hands and toes. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about Heian Shodan. I want to start getting into kata a little bit. And rather than just going through the kata step by step and looking at variations and things like that, I want to introduce ideas on how to make you, or how to help you do the kata better. And just introduce maybe one or two important points per kata along with the theme, so very in line with the basics or the kihon waza that we've been doing thus far. And so why not start at Heian Shodan? That's the easiest place. So there's two elements that I want to talk about today, or two particular pieces, and hopefully they'll help enhance the way that you do the kata. And I'll give you some drills to sort of think about those as well. So with that, let's get started. Hey, us. Right, okay, so Heian Shodan, a couple of things that are important. Let's just sort of, as you go through the kata, the first movement I like to talk about is move number 4, the Teruyuki. And when you think about Heian Shodan in general, it talks a lot, in my mind, about the idea of shifting your body weight forward, 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 the entire time. So it's talking about how to shift your body weight over long distances, and that's really apparent from the very first movement. This idea of dropping and pushing in, this idea of every single movement stepping a long way, rotating and shifting your body weight in a long distance. This seems to be the common theme within Heian Shodan and what it's really getting at. And when you look at it, it's kind of an oddball within the Heian kata because of that. So, and it's not until the last 4 movements that you have Shituke sort of introduced. So what I would like to, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through just some basic sort of motions. So let's start out with the third movement, starting here with the right hand. And what I would like you to do, and we're thinking about the Teruyuki, right, the hammer fist strike. So as you go, all I want you to think about here is we're going to do it the old way. Okay, this is a much older way to what's done traditionally in JKA. From here, I want you to make this movement from the shoulder. A lot of people will really shortchange this movement. They just, this kind of thing. But make the movement broader and longer. So move through the shoulder and pretend, just like in a lot of the other techniques that we've talked about, that your knee, your elbow, your body center is all combined together. And what I want you to do is I want you to pull back. Use everything to pull. So your body center literally moves from here all the way back. So it's here, shift and pull. Shift and pull. From there, use your entire shoulder. The arm will naturally bend. If you stiff arm it, it doesn't work. So allow the arm to naturally bend and come down into position. Instead of going all the way into the Zenkutsudachi though, I want you to stop up in Renoji-dachi. So you're going to pull over and then just up. And what I want you to do is I want you to feel that counterbalance of height with the dropping of the arm. So it's here, pull, rotate, push. This feeling. Here, this feeling. Just initially. Have a couple of goes with that. So just pause, have a go both sides, just give it a go. But really feel this pull and then this anchoring of your feet. Pull, anchoring of feet. Just like so. Give that a go. Okay, now that you've done with that, now feel from here the full pull and expansion in. 1. Again, where do your feet go? They shouldn't go all the way back when you're first learning or you're first emphasizing this movement. All the way back. But in reality, halfway. Halfway. It's the center that matters. It's this idea of centering your body weight over this leg that matters. See how I can be lazy here? So I'm transferring my weight. So as I go now, feel just slowly, coordinate and down. Coordinate and down. So make that different from this feeling of popping up to now in, round, and down. That whole nice and complete movement. And again, I'm having the marionette kind of feeling. This feeling of here, here, and down. So again, my body center and my body weight as I drop combines with the entire technique. Surprisingly, it doesn't feel strong, but it shouldn't. Why? Because this is a circular technique. There's no rotation of wrist. It's a very soft kind of technique, so unless you hit something with it. So feeling here, in, round, and down. And again, you can emphasize this in terms of application. I add a slight wrist turn here, just rotating out away from me. Sensei Riley, one of my senior instructors and one of my mentors, rotates the other way. Okay, he'll actually rotate this way. So I tend to push here and pull around in this direction. Sensei Riley opens this way and pulls around this way. Either's correct. Feel, push, 1, 2. This feeling, nice and relaxed. The arm should be on a slight bend, in height with the shoulder, just everything kind of natural. You know this position, you know the final position. So once again, pull, and down. Have the feeling of block, 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 hit kind of feeling as you go. So there's multiple interpretations. Bunkai kata application, people make livings off this, right? I don't, I'm just after the feeling of the technique. Feel here, this could be a wrist break, this could be a way to just let go tension in your body, whatever. From here, feel this block, this could be the wrist break if you like, or it could be just absorbing a technique. Coming around, blocking, same feeling, then dropping down. Any of these are fine. So give that whole motion a go. The whole motion a go. As you go. Try several times, then come back. We'll move on to the next part. Okay, very good. So now that your shoulders are nice and warmed up from moving, what I want to do is I want to talk about the turns a little bit. And again, when I was in one training with, and what I notice is quite often people will say something just sort of really fun to me, and it just clicks and makes sense. So the age-old question of when do I rotate, and what I want to do is I want to talk about the turns in Heian Shodan. And so people talk about when should I rotate on the heel and when should I rotate on the ball of my foot. And this is the classic age-old argument. There's many, many video blogs. My current opinion is actually that I agree with Scott Langley on this. And what he says, in general, rule of thumb, there are exceptions, right? This isn't rule of law. This is rule of thumb, is that when you're basically going backwards, if your shoulder is moving backwards, you will rotate on your heel. If your body weight is going forwards, right, this direction, then you'll rotate on the ball of your foot. So generally, rotating backwards, heel, rotating forwards, ball of the foot. And again, that can vary. There are also quite a lot of really interesting discussions that talk about rotating in the center and so forth. Again, this is a rule of thumb. This is a way for you to understand the body motion. So let's think about Heian Shodan. All of our movements, if you notice our first one, is this nice sort of rotation forward. If you notice, I don't rotate on my heel, but I push more through the center of my foot. So again, that rule of thumb thing, notice I'll use the heel to plant. Even though I'm moving forward, I'm still using the ball, using the heel of my foot as I move. From here, the big turns, now I'm going to rotate. Notice how I'm rotating backwards. So as I move, my heel is what does that. And the question is how can you actually make your heel, how can you stay on your heel? The simplest way is by following what Shihan Okazaki Sensei, Hiroyoshi Okazaki Sensei says. And it's really simple. If I try and start the rotation from here with this leg sticking all the way out and me rotating, I can't rotate on my heel. I just don't have the movement in my ankle to allow me to do that. Remember, I'm Dr. Stiff Ankles. So as I move, what I'll do to give myself the room is I simply transfer my weight over my center heel, over this body, which creates a small axis. From here now, I can simply swing this leg through and rotate round on my heel. If I try to rotate at any point earlier, I end up naturally coming up on the ball of my foot and rotating. My body does that naturally. I want to try and avoid that. I want to keep on my heel. So rather feel here, here, and then round. This feeling, right? So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to simply here, pull and rotate. And again, I'm overemphasizing it for the camera so you all can see. But the feeling just from here, I've just done the first punch. I simply squeeze and contract and round. I simply squeeze and contract, round. This kind of feeling. Right? From here, I simply squeeze and contract, compress, round. Just like so. So this is how you want to practice it. So a very simple drill for you to try in this is from here, just stand, you only need 2 spaces, pull in, rotate round. From here, add a punch out, from here, rotate round. Put a punch out, square it off, rotate round. From here, square off, rotate round. And so forth, and just repeat, boom, 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 then put the other leg out, boom, 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 boom. So what I'd like you to do, if I try the other side, be here, squared off, simply rotate round, boom, square off, rotate round, square off, rotate round, square off, and so forth. Do that X number of times one side, X number of times the other. Really paying attention to getting this on board. And remember all of the other things that we've done so far in this series of 15 minutes of thought. Not leaving here. If I do that, it's hard for me to turn. You must move, just like when we're switching feet. You must move everybody with it. You must not break. Keep a hold of that quarter between your butt cheeks. Keep this here so that you don't and try and turn. Keep here and you can make the rotation. Okay, so try that, give that a little while, press pause, and we'll come back and talk about next piece. Good, okay, so from here with that same turn, something else that's important is pay attention that you're using both your hands as you move. You don't want to, for example, here, leave this hand behind. You don't want to rotate round, this hand, the one that's sitting on your hip. You don't want to leave that behind and just use this. Rather use both hands. So feel, as you push, feel this hand. This being close to the hip will help wrap your hip round in the direction it wants. So allow, as soon as you start, that backward pressure, squeeze this hand round. And as soon as it fires, it's going to fire about here. Allow the block to go. Another thing to think about is as you make that rotation with the hand, as you go, don't feel like you need to turn and then rotate back out. You don't. Don't have that feeling. Rather, simply feel here. As soon as my hip goes into position, it simply grabs into position. As soon as I'm round for enough, if I set up like a radar, right? There, my hip's in position, then forward. So don't make it this round motion. Rather make it into position and drive. Round into position and drive. Round into position, then drive forward. Have that feeling. So monitoring the rear leg. And when that drives, just like any stepping punch, becomes important. Other thing, this hand, you don't even need to worry about it. It'll magically do whatever you need it to do. It'll simply wrap quite easily. And then down. If you find you need hip practice, if you find that you need more practice in terms of moving your hips, by all means, come round, turn, then open. That's totally okay for practice. For me, the way I do the kata and the way I prefer to do the kata, which is my choice, I simply low and push forward. But the other way is not wrong. It depends what you want out of the drill. So once again, repeat the same drill. Now really pay attention to how your hands are coming around, how you're using this hand on the hip to point where you want to go. Pay attention to how it's wrapping. Pay attention to when the rear leg drives. Pay attention to the hip position and when it goes. And with that, I'll press pause, give that a go, figure it out, and then come back in a second. Excellent. Okay, so let's do that tricky third turn. And so this particular one, Notice this is another, I'm turning over my shoulder, so again I'm turning on my heel. So how do you do that? Quite often, and we'll do it from Agyuke, whichever, it doesn't matter. What people will often do is they'll rotate, if you watch my front foot, this guy here, as I turn, what they'll often do is turn on the ball of their foot like so. So notice I lift it up and turn around. I really try to emphasize it. What you find is that it's actually kind of hard to turn that way. What I encourage you to do is turn on your heel for that. How do I turn on my heel, JD? How does that happen? Well, the way that you do it is simply lift your toes. So when I practice this, and when this is a training aid, this is not how I do it in the kata, but this is how I practice to learn the feeling to how to do it. I simply lift my toes and my front foot. So if you watch my front foot, they go from being here to here. Notice how I lifted them up. What that does is that shifts your body weight back into the heel. So I'm here, and then what I can do is I can simply now, again, leaving my hips straight, squeezing with my butt, keeping my back straight, I can simply now turn up and round. You'll notice that it's much easier. So what I would like you to do is from here, lift your toes, out, then go back. Out, back. Out, back. Out, back. This feeling. Give that a go. Press pause, and then I'll come back in a sec. Good. Okay, so you've tried that out. You tried bouncing back and forth. Couple of things to think about. Don't leave your hands behind. So when you make this turn, don't go all the way around and go, oh, that's right, I have to block. Right? Don't make it this. Don't make it that. Way too slow. Rather, the way I imagine it is two ways. Number one, I just throw this hand. Other hand will naturally scoop into position. Right as I go. Naturally scoops. It naturally scoops. Allow that to happen. So just throw this. Again, elbow, hip, body, all connected together. All of it naturally is connected together, like our puppet master. The other thing to think about as you do this is throw your block as fast as you can. So when I do this, I don't wait and think, oh, that's right, I've got to block, and then quick. Rather, my initiating movement for me is this release. Release and throw. So when I'm here, I'm not throwing the block at this point. I throw the block from the very beginning. I throw the block from the very beginning into that motion. The next thing you want to think about is just slowing it down a little bit. Pay attention. Just like I had you thinking, if I step forward, there's the drive of that leg. Pay attention to that here. Pay attention to when you rotate and when you drive the leg. When you rotate and when the drive occurs. Pay attention to that piece. And what you'll notice is there's a very, very clever sort of pattern that starts to fall out of Heian Shodan. So with that, practice again, just those movements. Going forward, going back, going forward, going back. With that, to just try and practice and get it under control. Off you go. Very good. Okay, so you've done that now. So the thing you've noticed out of this is that there's a trend in here. Notice that when we were doing the first block, we moved our body center forward, because again, what we're effectively doing is we've got to move our body center one stance length to halfway, a second stance length out. So it sort of goes one, then two, and there's a turn in the middle there. So make it linear. Don't make it round. Pull it, then turn, then push. Right? So what you want to do is you want to make your spin on the smallest axis possible. Make your spin, make your turn. When my feet, body, hands, when all this is compressed, and round and forward. That feeling. So if I break it down into its component parts, and again, these merge together when I move quick, feel, compress, turn, push. And then as you go, feel like you're a piece of elastic. Doing, doing, and what I'm doing is I'm spinning as I go. It's like I'm here, I come in, someone's pulling, and I expand. Likewise, when I start at the top, notice here I'm already at the halfway position. As far as my bum and my heel are concerned, I may as well be here. So that means I can spin immediately. That's why this turns fast. So as I go, I want the feeling of turn and then expand. Turn immediately and then expand. So what you notice is when I'm compressed, when I'm in the load or when my legs are together, that's when I'm turning ideally. Expand, spin, go. Spin, go. That's the feeling you want. And likewise when I'm doing the tiny turns at the end of the kata, when I'm here and I'm going to go forward, I've got to readjust now and out. Notice how that's exactly the opposite of this, right? Where I'm here, I can turn immediately and then push. When I'm at these points, now I've got to expand in and then push and then do the turn. It's a lot sort of cleverer like that. Boom, boom. So with that, try with those points. Try to think through as you go. Pay attention to here. Expand, turn, push. Here, expand, turn, push into hami. From here, compress, turn, push into hami. From here, and we did this as a drill in another drill that we've done in another class, which is why I'm not really covering it here. Feel that compress, then push. So it's about this nice squeeze and push that we've talked about sort of time and time again. I think in the one before, so number 10. So have a look at that and have a play with that. Right? So those turns are really important to really develop that piece. Another little thing that I do, just I did the toe up and this big turn here. I quite often, when I find that I'm being lazy with my feet, even when I'm here, I try and lift the toes with my back foot. That reminds me to keep my weight in my heel. When I'm here, I'll lift the toes of my back foot to keep myself here. But again, pay attention that you can drop your body weight in and round. Okay, nice and easy. So with that, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to practice all three of these. From here, stepping and rotating. Punch out, step and rotate. From here, step, lift the toes, rotate. Then go back. Then go forward. Then go back. Then from here, practice out and in. Then out. This kind of feeling. Practice those three drills to help really work on those turns and those shifts in body weight. Then finally, so press pause, give that a go, and then one more tip, and then we're done for today. Good, and coming back, the last thing, think about how now that relates to this initial piece. Feeling, lift your toes, pull through the heel. Don't pull through the ball of your foot. Pull through the heel. Anchor the body and come down. That's the last piece, applying that there. The last thing you can also think about, of course, is the relationship now to kokutsudachi, which is what Heian Shodan talks about a lot. So that would be here, and this time, instead of the pull, push, now it's simply pull and rotate on the spot. Right, so the leg simply goes out, but I don't shift my body weight. Then from here, the step, right, as I move, stepping through. Then from here, notice, I don't need to pull my body weight. Before, it was 1 + 1. Now as I move, I don't need to. It's simply here, push, and rotated through. My body center moves, not because this leg's moving, but actually out of the turn as it moves. So this is a much harder and much more center-centric move. It's only going here to here. And the reason it's put later in the kata, I think,
is because moving it grossly, moving it through these bigger motions is easier to understand. If you can apply it in the big, the next place is apply it in the small, which in this particular case is the 4 shutos at the end, right? So allowing this wonderful, instead of it being a big pull, push, it's now just pull, squeeze. Then from here, feeling this nice turn through. Then from here, shifting, just keep your center here. Push. This feeling. This nice squeeze. It's still got that same squeezing, but it's controlling now the center so it doesn't just drive forward. So from here, the last drill of the day, now practice that with kokutsudachi. Practice here, squeeze and pull. Then from here, squeeze and pull, squeeze and pull, squeeze and pull, squeeze and pull. Just like so. Okay, so with that, have fun. Heian Shodan suddenly becomes cool again. Have a play with those turns. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and see you later on. So with that, take care. Look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Us.